Hi guys, so I'm just going to continue on. Sorry, it's a little choppy, and a little bit unorganized as terms of your notes goes. That's why I have the terms below. But anyways, let's go and talk about naturalism. Naturalism is pretty much a style and theory of representation that's based on the accurate depiction of detail. So what I mean by that is it's very observational, I guess you could say. You know, you draw or paint or do what, sculpt, whatever, what you see. So, for example, Caravaggio would use live models instead of idealized representations to depict what he was trying to paint. He actually got in a lot of trouble for that. So, for example, with his depiction of Mary, she had dirty feet, and that's because the model he was using had dirty feet. He liked to involve real things in his images. That's why he hated in the Calling St. Matthew, he hated those, angel discs, because they weren't real. He didn't see them. And so the only way you can kind of tell Jesus is, first of all, by that Adam pose, and second of all, there's this really thin line that represents a disc, and I'm pretty sure he was reluctant to do that. But, so anyways, he uses a lot of naturalism. So Caravaggio is a good example of that. Okay, so I'm just going to recap on iconography. So remember that iconography means the use or study of images or symbols in visual arts. So, for example, in Juan Sanchez Cotan, I think I'm saying his name right, in his still life with the quince, cabbage, melon, and cucumber, I don't think it's in your slide list, but it is important to know these references. So, in this piece, there was a lot of debate on what the fruit meant and what they represented. So at this time, there was a tradition in Spain where fruits and veggies were actually used symbolically. So for example, stylized with like a bunch of carrots indicate the nails on the cross. So weird things like that. And it's still kind of unknown what each fruit or vegetable represented. But then again, but then again, there was that Protestant Reformation. So this is proof that while the Protestant Reformation didn't directly affect Spain, it still influenced a lot of works. So you see that a lot where landscapes, I had a brain fart, where landscapes are used instead of, actual representation. So just recapping on the term iconography, how it relates to your guys' works now. Okay, I'm going to talk about Spanish Inquisition, and this is just like a really small, brief definition. So, if you guys want to know more about it, it's in your book, and of course you can look it up too. So there's this period in Spain called the Spanish Inquisition, and this was basically an extreme witch hunt for anything that wasn't really orthodox. So any kind of quote-unquote heresy or things that they considered heresy was rooted out in a very violent way. It was a very violent time, which meant that this was another huge incident in history that influenced Spanish Baroque art, particularly the popular martyrdom themes. It was very violent, but, Spanish Inquisition kind of influenced those. Okay, so I'm just going to recap the term Putti, and it's in one of Rubens' pieces. I can't think of it on the top of my head. I think it's the one that involves Henry IV. Henry IV receiving the portrait of Marie de Medici. There we go. They're pretty much fat-winged angel babies, and they usually they usually are mischievous and stuff like that. Just a term you should know. The next term is actually really important, so it's Divine Right of Kings. The pieces that you're going to see this a lot is Charles I at the Hunt, and quite a bit of French Baroque pieces. So at this point in time, the raising of the monarch power was starting to bud, and it was kind of at the same time as the Baroque, and you see this particularly in Charles I at the Hunt. So in the 17th century, there was a reinsertion of the doctrine known as the Divine Right of Kings. This pretty much promoted absolute power of the monarchy and suggested that a king's authority is defined to or given to by God. So Charles I, who is in this painting, was known for advocating and bringing this concept back, although it was eventually the reason of his execution. So you'll see, again, like I said, you'll see more of this theme become prevalent in French Baroque, especially in pieces in Versailles, because there was that aristocracy concept, and so like Henry XIV believed he was Apollo. I believe it's Henry XIV. He believed that he was Apollo, and, you know, it's just that correlation that he had divine right of anything that he saw. Okay. So the next term, Vanitas, is going to be correlated with Vermeer's piece, Woman Wearing Pearls. Vanitas comes from the word vanity. So in this context, the pearl is materialistic, and it reminds us, as the audience, that objects are not important, but rather it's the afterlife that is. And it sort of reminds me of Memento Mori, which is kind of that mortality concept, like you're not going to be alive forever. And so that's basically what that means. And you see that literally when she's weighing the pearls in the background of the piece with the Last Judgment. Okay. So the next term is the camera obscura, and that's going to be in Jan Vermeer's view, the Delft, that we see this. So in this piece, Vermeer is using this thing called the camera obscura, I can't talk today, which consisted of a dark room or box with a lens. And this is where light passes through, and it's projecting. It projects in the opposite side of the wall or box, and it projects an upside-down image of the scene, which then the artist can trace. Now I'm going to repeat that because that's kind of a lot. So a camera obscura is a darkened room. It consists of a darkened room or box with a lens through which a light can pass. And so that light projects onto the opposite wall or box, and it projects an upside-down image of the scene, which then an artist can trace. This was a precursor to the modern camera, but note that it's not a camera. It's not a little camera, because the photography wasn't invented until 1835. It's just a precursor. It doesn't have any film. That's pretty much why it's not literally a camera. Just so you know, camera obscura means darkened room. Okay, so Vermeer used the camera obscura not necessarily as a method of reproducing an image, but rather as a visual analysis for the composition. He used it as an aid. Okay, and another term that's associated with camera obscura is called circles of confusion. And those are little dots within the piece, and that's pretty much an optical spot caused by a cone of light rays from a lens not coming to a perfect focus when imaging a point source. So you're just going to see these really weird dots in those images. They're kind of subtle, but just know that those